I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. I'm working on a project I hope to have done soon. And in the meantime, I'd like to answer a question that I am asked most frequently, which is, what is the most difficult job I've worked on? Well, in these two videos, I managed to restore these two pieces, despite the fact that the veneer is a disaster. Against all odds, somehow I managed to get these back together again. And I might add that although these jobs are exceedingly difficult, they're my favorite jobs. So if you enjoy these videos, hit like, subscribe, feel free to share them on other platforms. I'd appreciate it. I'm Tom Johnson of Thomas Johnson Antique Restoration in Gorham, Maine. This is a really nice chest of drawers. It's actually a desk. See, there's a little, what we might call a butler's desk in here. This piece of furniture is marked. It was made by a company called Joseph L. Ross School Furniture, which is very odd. It's not a piece of school furniture. I've looked online. They show all their school furniture. They don't show any piece as nice as this. And this is probably from the 1860s, 1870s, made in Boston. And it's probably pine and all veneered with rosewood veneer. So we've got a ton of veneer repair work to do, and then we've got to restore the finish. It's got lots of loose places. It has some feet. They're in a drawer here. We'll attach the feet because this is also a drawer down here. It's missing a lot of veneer. On this side, we have big areas that will replace altogether. The other side isn't too bad. It's more intact than anything else. So we have a lot of veneer to glue down. I thought the top was marble. It certainly looks like marble. But as soon as I started working on this, I realized the big tip-off was this area here where the paint is all chipped off. It's actually a piece of stone of some sort, and then it's been marbleized. All right, starting with the desk lid, I'm going to remove it, and then the drawers, and start gluing down any loose veneer that I can find. We've got all kinds of pieces of veneer here, and also a missing knob we've got. And these are feet that I think are probably the original feet. We'll know better when I turn this over and look at the bottom of it. Just look like ebony. And this particular drawer front has quite a bit of loose veneer. Once I'm sure that I can access all these loose places, then I'll start working the glue in. Because the feet were off of this piece and it was sitting on the floor just like it is, I'm not even sure the owner knew there was a drawer here. This is the bottommost drawer. I've got to re-veneer the entire front of the drawer. Luckily the drawer needs to be re-glued, so I'll take it apart, and that'll make the veneering a lot easier. I need to remove this old veneer, scrape it down, and cut new veneer. I bought a pretty good sized sheet of 2-ply veneer. In other words, it's backed. And it makes it much easier to work with. I needed a big piece. So for my drawer front, I'm going to take out the piece right here. This big pattern here is very similar to what I see on this piece of furniture. Okay, here's the drawer front. I'm ready to glue down the veneer. Since this is entirely new veneer, I'm going to use yellow glue. Okay, I don't think I can fit any more clamps on here, so we'll see what it is tomorrow. Okay, so now I got to trim these edges because I got to veneer the chamfered surface and then veneer the top. this chamfered edge is it's just impossible to clamp. There's no way to clamp it. So what I'm going to do is put down my hide glue, and then as it cools as quickly as I can, I'm going to apply my strip of veneer here and press it down with a block, a rubber block, and then a metal block. This is a technique called hammer veneering. I can feel the glue tacking up, and it's starting to grip that piece of veneer. At this point, I'm going to switch to my piece of metal, which is really the front end of a 3-in-1 plane. It's a nice flat piece of metal. It's starting to feel pretty solid. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm just pushing it down with a moderate amount of pressure until I feel like it's solid. I've cut about 6 of these. I may have to even cut more, but I'm not going to use this really light sapwood part. Probably not use hardly any of this rose color part, mostly the darker part there. These are a couple pieces I've already glued down, so I'll trim this off and then start piecing together the veneer I need to come down here. And of course I got to cut a 45 in the corner there. Sometimes, rather than try to slice it, it's better just to chop it. So now I'll tape these into position. I think I'll cut my 45 after I glue it down. So I'm just going to keep working my way around the perimeter of this, patching in the pieces wherever it needs them. So now I've got to trim my new veneer to this inside edge and also trim it out on the outside edge. Okay, so now all this edge on the inside of the lid is, all the veneer is glued down and repaired. Now I've got a bunch of loose veneer on this side I've got to glue down and do some patches. It seems to have gone down pretty well. And now I've got to do the top edge along here. Okay, that seems like it went down pretty well on this edge. Now I've still got to cut out where the mortise is for the lock, and then I believe that this desk lid will be ready to finish. I made some marks where that mortise is located. So I'm a little unsure of these lines exactly, but I know I can drill down right in this area here and then start cleaning it out. Okay, so this side of the cabinet needs a lot of work. We've got loose veneer down the panel here, loose veneer everywhere, and lots of veneer missing. I think the first thing I got to do is glue this board back where it belongs, right there, to get this area ready for veneer. A lot of these larger pieces almost certainly go to the bottom molding on the right side. I found a few already where they go. Now I've got one more patch to do here. I think the first thing I'm going to do is clean this area down with some lacquer thinner to get the old finish off, and even then sand it lightly so I can see exactly what the wood grain looks like, so I can pick out the best wood that I have for the patch. This wood is beautiful. It looks like a perfect match in color and in the grain patterns. Alright, that looks like it fits pretty well. This veneer is a bit thinner than the existing veneer, so I'm going to cut another piece to go under it. I got another piece I found, glue on this chamfered edge on the base. This piece fits right in there. It's kind of a difficult clamping spot, but I think I figured out a way to do it. Now this looks like it came out pretty good. So when we were clamping this panel, the whole panel collapsed and broke down. The panel was cracked anyway. I suspected there might be a problem because there was a space between the inner wall and this panel. And so it did come loose. So what I discovered, there's two screws holding this base piece on, which I took out. This is doweled on. I'm going to remove this dovetail board in the back. This piece will come off, and I'm hoping that then I can get the panel out of there. Okay, great. Now we can glue this panel back together properly and then do the repair work on the veneer. It's always hard to get these slivers right back where they belong. We've got some of this edge molding that goes under the top is chipped away here. Okay, I think that's as flat as I can get it. Looks like the grain's going this way. So now I've got all the veneer repairs done and all the other repairs. I've cleaned and sanded all the surfaces, and now I'll apply a coat of shellac. And I will avoid all my new areas, and later, after the first coat of shellac, I'll figure out how to stain those to match. Okay, now that first coat of shellac is dried, I've got a lot of touch-ups to do. I'm going to use some dye stain. After the final coat, I rub it down with a little bit of 4/0 steel wool and wool lube. Okay, this is the drawer front for the top drawer, which is not really a drawer, it's a desk. It flips down like this. This is where the fabric was, which I removed. I have a nice piece of heavy woven avocado colored felt, which is perfect for these old pieces like this. And I'm going to glue it down. There we go. This is a really nice 19th century Victorian rosewood chest of drawers. It's actually what they call a butler's. chest because it has a little desk feature on it. It was built probably around 1860. The name of the maker was imprinted in here. We did a ton of veneer repairs on this. It was a mess. So a lot of re-veneering of this bottom drawer and the bottom edge over there, and a lot of veneer repairs. And then finished it with a couple coats of shellac and rubbed it down with steel wool and wax. I think it looks pretty good. The top is a faux marble top. We just cleaned it and waxed it. I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson, Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. This is a nice chest of drawers. Stylistically, it's from the early 1800s, like Louis XVI into the Directoire period, or maybe Regency. But I don't think this piece of furniture is that old. I think it's an old piece of furniture. It's a reproduction now, but it is handmade, solid wood, mortise and tenon joints. It's a very nice piece of furniture. It needs a lot of work. It has a lot of inlay repairs, veneer repairs. The finish is in really bad shape. It's going to need to be refinished. However, this video is just going to be focus on one aspect of the restoration, and that's the repair of these side panels. These are all veneered, and the veneer is coming off. But in order to clamp this down, I'm going to have to disassemble this chest of drawers so that I can have flat panels to clamp. The first step is going to be to see if I can remove the top. I had seen, looking from underneath, these holes all neatly arranged all the way around. I thought this top was probably screwed onto here. But as I look down these holes with a little flashlight, all I see is glue down in there. So I'm probing around this piece of wood here. It seems pretty tight. I'm assuming that this whole top frame is glued to the subframe here. I think I'm going to hit this a little bit with a mallet, but then I may just have to start getting the heat gun and going around the perimeter of this thing, see if I can loosen it up. Well, luckily this knife blade seems to be going under there, possibly breaking any bond that's there. In fact, I think it's opening up, so I think I'm just going to keep going around like this, see what I get. I think I'll go along and loosen this up, and then start putting some wedges in there, loosen up along the front. Well, this seems to be working. I mean, it's loosening up. I think this is glued down. There's not a lot of glue. It's just letting loose as I go along. So I'm just going to go around the whole perimeter of this until this top comes off. See, the core of this top section is plywood, and I'm trying to keep that top layer of plywood from splitting away. So you can see here where the plywood's hanging on. Things about ready to lift off. I think it's loose. Right, excellent. Now there's pieces of wood from the top stuck to this, and I just may leave them right where they are. When we reattach that top, these pieces of veneer that split away from that will go back right where they belong. You know, I've decided after removing the top, and I'm not sure if this case is really going to come apart. I don't want to cause any damage, so I think I'm not going to take the case apart after all. I still will remove these drawer guides. I need to have the back of this clear to facilitate, being able to glue down the veneer on these sides. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these drawer runners. What I'm discovering is that there's a nail in here, but I might be able to pry this up. Okay, I've got all the drawer runners out. Now the next step is to see if I can get this veneer panel off of here. I'm going to start with the heat gun and some knives and see if I can start working it up. You can see that this first part is very loose. I don't even really need heat, but I'm going to keep applying heat because it's down in this area, so I need to keep working my heat up in there as best I can and see if this glue will loosen up. Here on the edge, the inlay is kind of splitting. I'm going to have to cut that inlay loose with a razor blade to make sure it can come up with the minimum amount of damage. Okay, that's off of there. Let's talk about how I'm going to glue this up. Here you see a cross section of a piece of veneered wood. Take a clamp and apply some pressure directly to the piece. The pressure radiates out from the clamps at 45-degree angles. Put on another clamp, same thing. The problem here is that if you don't put the clamps close enough together, you can get spots where there isn't any pressure or not enough pressure to do the job. And with a clamping job like this one, there's only enough room for a couple of clamps. So here's what you do. Take your piece of wood, put another piece of wood up against it. This is called a platen. And behind your platen, a bracing piece of wood called the caul. That way, when you put on the clamp and apply the pressure, it radiates out over a much larger area. Now you can put on a second clamp and know that you're getting pressure over the whole surface of the wood. So when the glue dries and you take off the cauls, the platens, and the clamps, your piece of veneered wood is nice and flat. So now I'm going to cut some MDF, which is medium density fiberboard. I'm going to cut sheets of MDF to go on either side of this panel for the platens. Okay, first I'm going to install my platens on the inside. Now I'll hold these in place with a stick. I'm using a lot of glue on this surface, and I know that this glue cannot fill gaps or correct the unevenness of the surface, but I just feel like I want to put down a lot of glue and hope for the best. Now this platen is covered with plastic. These cauls have a camber to them, like this, which will give us really even pressure. All right, we'll find out tomorrow. Okay, let's see what we got.
looks really good. Seems nice and flat. Okay, this is the other side of the cabinet that we glued up exactly the same way as the other side. Let's see what it looks like. Alright. This came out well. It's down. It's nice and flat. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the tape. I'm going to wash off this excess glue with some water. I'm going to patch any spaces where I can, where the inlay is missing. I'm going to fill in the other cracks and spaces with wood putty so that when I strip it, the stripper won't attack my glue through these cracks. I'm just giving the putty a quick sand, smooth it out a little bit before I strip this. I didn't appreciate how beautiful the veneer was. Now I will apply the first of 3 coats of shellac. Alright, here we have this very nice little Louis XV style reproduction chest of drawers, probably built in the early 20th century. We did a lot of veneer repairs to this with the inlay and even on the top, but of course this video just concerned itself with the sides. And those we took off, re-glued, and then we had to sand them down, so we just refinished the entire piece. But I think it looks pretty good.